Hello everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of Watchtower Examination. My name is Winston. Today we take a look at how the Watchtower seeks to make its governing body the equivalent of the historic leader of the Jewish nation, Moses. Are they? But before we seek to answer that question, there is a relevant question that may require answering first. Is Moses a real historic figure or the imagination of Christians? I wish to make mention of the plagues of Israel in my attempt to answer the question about the governing body being today's equivalent of Moses. But this also begs another question. Is the Bible's account of these plagues real or fake news? Fantasy? Make-believe? I will be reading for you an interesting article from time.com entitled, "Did the 10 Plagues of Egypt Really Happen?" Here are three theories. Three theories. The article begins, quote, "When the Passover holiday begins on the evening of April 8 in 2020, Jewish people around the world will celebrate by retelling the biblical story of the Exodus from Egypt, including the 10 plagues that God inflicted on the ancient Egyptians." Unquote. Should we also wonder if the Jewish people are real or if their history is real? This is where I declare my hand that I am a biased voice in this debate. My bias is toward the scriptures. I believe in the Creator because I believe I was wonderfully made and not mysteriously evolved. But I listen to alternative perspectives, and so the article continues. As the Passover story tells it, after Pharaoh refuses Moses' entreaties to let the enslaved Israelites go free, God sends a series of 10 plagues to pressure the Egyptian ruler. Each time Pharaoh promises to free the Israelites, but reverses his decision when the plague is lifted, until the last one. The plagues are water turning into blood, frogs, lice, flies, livestock, pestilence, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and the killing of the firstborn children. The question of whether Bible stories can be linked to archaeological discoveries is one that has long fascinated scholars. The 10 plagues are no exception, and over the years, scientists have been curious about whether the story of the plagues may have been based on some event that can be proved to have happened. Here are three of the major theories to know. 1. Volcanic eruption. This theory argues that the plagues were really the fallout of volcanic eruption on the island of Santorini in the south of Greece around 1620 to 600 BCE. Microbiologist Ciro Trevisanato, author of The Plagues of Egypt, Archaeology, History and Science Look at the Bible, argues that ancient Egyptian medical texts support this idea. Winds would have carried the volcanic ash to Egypt at some point over the summer, and the toxic acids in the volcanic ash would have included the mineral cinnabar, which could have been capable of turning a river a blood-like red color, Trevisanato holds. The accumulated acidity in the water would have caused frogs to leap out and search for clean water. Insects would have burrowed eggs in the bodies of dead animals and human survivors, which generated larvae and then adult insects. Then the volcanic ash in the atmosphere would have affected the weather, with acid rain landing on people's skin, which in turn caused boils. The grass would have been contaminated, poisoning the animals that ate it. The humidity from the rain and the subsequent hail would have created optimal conditions for locusts to thrive, Volcanic eruptions could also explain the several days of darkness, which means 9 plagues are accounted for. Trevisonato also found an ancient Egyptian account of the children of aristocrats lying dead in public and archaeological data matching the account. He believes that amid all this destruction, firstborn children could have been sacrificed out of desperation in the hopes that such a meaningful sacrifice would lead their gods to stop punishing them. Oh, so why only the aristocrats sacrificing their children? Why not the Israelites? Would they have not also bought into the custom? And why do the Jews celebrate the Passover to this very day? That was the first of 3 theories. I have placed the link to the article in the description below for your reading pleasure as I end it here. But not before telling you the other 2 theories are red algae and climate change. Take a read. So there are those like myself who believe the biblical account, while of course there are others who do not. They're right. Like myself and millions of other persons of faith, Jehovah's Witnesses believe the Bible's account, or so I hope. To Jehovah's Witnesses, I say, imagine yourself a slave in Egypt. You were born a slave. Slavery is all you know. You and your people are busy out in the sun and rain building the Pharaoh's cities. You are working very hard under difficult circumstances, and you can't wait for the unlikely event of escaping this hell of a life. Then you heard that Moses, who used to be with Pharaoh, who fled after killing a man, went to Pharaoh to tell him now that the God of your fathers is demanding that he let you and your people go so you can again worship your God in peace. Now you know how that Pharaoh is, and no one makes demands of him. You know he is going to get angry. You are not sure if the story is true, but the word is that this Moses went to Pharaoh and that his assistant had a rod that became a snake. But that a remarkable thing happened when Pharaoh's magicians did likewise. But this man's snake swallowed up theirs. So the very first news you hear about this man who returned involves a miracle. The next thing you know, the rivers and the sea around you turn to blood, something you have never seen in your life. Then came the frogs, then the flies, then the boils, then the hail. All hell is breaking loose in Egypt ever since this man named Moses came to Pharaoh to tell him to free you and your people. Locusts take over the land. Darkness follows. You have never witnessed these things all your life. Now you know that things are really heating up. Then you get the news. This is really serious now. You are to place blood over your door because an angel of death will be passing over the land, and all the people without the blood over their doors will lose their firstborn in their households. Now that is serious. You see your neighbors applying the blood, so you decide this is really very serious, so you make sure you follow suit. You wake up the next morning and you hear wailing all over Egypt. Yes, the thing is real. Their firstborns are dead. Yours is alive. Your Israelite neighbors' children are also alive. And you get the news that Pharaoh finally signed the decree. Slavery is abolished, and you are now free to leave Egypt with this man named Moses leading the way. Celebration. You all leave. You are on your way, but your joy is interrupted with the horrifying news. Pharaoh's army is coming toward you. The man is angry and decided that all of you must die. You have no weapons. This Moses has no weapons. To your right, hills. To your left, hills. Before you, the Red Sea, and behind you, the army. Now you know you are dead for sure. But this Moses announces, stand still, God will fight for you. He raises his rod, and you cannot believe your eyes. The Red Sea parts. You and your nation cross it. Pharaoh's army tries, as if they don't realize that you have supernatural powers on your side. And sure enough, the waters return and they are dead. What manner of man is this Moses? Anyhow, you know it is all the God of your fathers working through him. You are in the wilderness, making a journey to the promised land. There is a pillar of cloud keeping you cool in the days, and a pillar of fire to keep you warm at nights. There is manna falling from heaven to feed you. What a life! No more slave labor, and strange but very healthy food. Then this Moses leaves you for a while, and he returns with 2 tablets of stones, the 10 commandments from God. When he returns, his face is shining so bright you cannot behold it. He then instructs you to cleanse and sanctify yourself, and to gather at the foot of Mount Sinai, because God is going to speak with you today. You have never heard that? God speaking? You heard it for the first time. The voice of God speaking to you the 10 commandments. It was so dreadful, you begged Moses, please do the talking. At the end of it all, you promise that everything that God commanded, you will do. Question: how much more evidence would you need that God has appointed this man Moses to be your leader, and the one through whom he is communicating to you? Now, Jehovah's Witnesses, I present to you today's equivalent of Moses, Stephen Lett. Take a good look at him. Please remind me the sign that you saw that confirms that he was appointed as God's spokesperson to you. Was it the marvelous thing he said about the Son of God?
What if he had decided to become a doctor? He could cure sick people, even raise the dead.
Better than Moses, Stephen Lett doesn't just have one assistant. He has 7 equal assistants, all appointed by God. Please remind me of Jeffrey Jackson's claim to fame. What evidence do you have that God appointed him? After all, he all but denied it.
That, I think, would seem to be quite presumptuous to say that we are the only spokesperson that God is using.
I give you the intellectual one. What book has he written? What special sign have you seen that this intellect was appointed by God as a spokesperson to you? His brilliance?
Some study what's called pure science, meant just to advance mankind's understanding of science, but with no practical benefit. Some study dead languages. Some study bacteria or insects, which is wonderful if you like insects.
The one black man on the governing body, like Jeffrey Jackson, is all but telling you there is nothing special about the governing body.
The governing body gets credit that we don't deserve.
They're just ordinary folks.
Brothers will come and hug you. Oh, thank you, brother. You governing body member. You really, wow. Now we know we didn't do anything.
He is basically telling you they will not stop trying to get you all to stop singing their praises.
And we haven't been able to close the mouths of over 8 million bleeding sheep. But we will keep trying.
But then there is the one who is announcing the song where you will sing their praises. He seems to be the one who is supposed to confirm to you the things they got wrong in the past and the new explanations, even if they do not make sense, like the overlapping generation, and also about the obvious things they should have seen.
Well, that's obvious. This explanation is obvious. Why didn't we see it before?
How, Jehovah's Witnesses, do you know that God appointed David's plane? What is the evidence? What is it about him that reminds you so much of Moses? Is it because he told you so? Like Gerrit Loesch told you so?
Today, the faithful slave was put in charge of providing spiritual food for God's people who number into the millions.
Then comes the guy who was found in a liquor store one Sunday morning buying expensive liquor, who is mad as hell at the apostates for outing him. He reminds me of Daffy Duck calling Bugs Bunny despicable.
You're despicable. These despicable enemies, that's despicable.
And the new kid on the block, who is he? What is his claim to fame? What has he done? What special mark is there on him that makes you confirm that he is the equivalent of Moses to Jehovah's Witnesses today? So far, I cannot even attribute any special thought to him. So how do you know that Kenneth Cook is appointed by God to be a spokesperson to you? Because Aunt Mo said it?
Look again at Matthew 24, and we've made this point in the past on verse 45. When the question was raised, and now it's been answered in our day, Acts 24, verse 45, who really is the faithful and discreet slave? Singular, see? Whom his master appointed over his domestics to give them their food at the proper time.
And if it appears that I am poking fun at them, it would be because these guys are a literal joke, in the sense that they keep invoking rebellions against Moses as a lesson to Jehovah's Witnesses not to rebel against them.
We'll open up to Numbers chapter 12, please. And here's an interesting account, gives us some insight into Jehovah's viewpoint. Numbers 12, verse 1, now Miriam and Aaron began to speak against Moses because of the Cushite wife he had married. Verse 2, they were saying, and apparently on an ongoing basis, is it only by Moses that Jehovah has spoken? Has he not also spoken through us? Now notice the next thought. And Jehovah was listening. And Jehovah didn't like what he heard, did he? If you look at verse 9, his anger burned, and he struck Miriam with leprosy. Now think about this. Of all the diseases Jehovah could have struck Miriam with, why did he choose leprosy? Well, Jehovah doesn't tell us. But think about this. A person struck with leprosy, especially in Bible times, was made physically repulsive. Korah, Dathan, Abiram, remember they murmured against Moses? We've had enough of you. The whole assembly is holy, all of them, and Jehovah's in their midst. Why then should you exalt yourself above the congregation of Jehovah? See, their murmuring was an outward expression of an inward condition, pride.
Let's talk about Moses a little bit more.
And Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation together before the rock, and he said unto them, Hear now, ye rebels, must we fetch you water out of this rock? And Moses lifted up his hand, and with his rod he smote the rock twice. And the water came out abundantly, and the congregation drank, and their beasts also. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, Because ye believed me not, to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel, therefore ye shall not bring this congregation into the land which I have given them.
So, God could not trust Moses to follow his instructions? With all that he had accomplished for the Lord, with all the glory that shone on his face with the receipt of the Ten Commandments, with all the laws that God spoke to Israel through this faithful servant that he appointed through the burning bush, even with him making the hall of faith mentioned at Hebrews 11, God could not trust him properly to carry out his assignment, as Jehovah's Witnesses love to put it. But the governing body is announcing to you that they are more trustworthy than Moses, so much so that unlike Moses, God trusts them completely. So you should do the same.
Since Jehovah God and Jesus Christ completely trust the faithful and discreet slave, should we not do the same?
So when it comes down to it, Jehovah's Witnesses cannot provide one shred of evidence that these men were appointed by God. Yet they keep driving it into the minds of Jehovah's Witnesses that they were appointed and should be respected as Moses should have been respected. Why? Because they said so.
In fact, they realize that the scriptures advise against quickly believing someone who claims to have a special appointment from God.
But even while telling you that, they are telling you this. Those who view Jehovah as their confidence also show confidence in the men Jehovah chooses to use in the outworking of his purposes. For the Israelites, this meant showing confidence in Moses and later in his successor Joshua. For early Christians, it meant showing confidence in the apostles and older men of the Jerusalem congregation. For us today, it means having confidence in the faithful and discreet slave appointed to give us our spiritual food at the proper time, as well as in those from among them who form the governing body. Watchtower, August 15, 1998, page 12, paragraph 11. Jehovah should be our confidence. As usual, their go-to text is Matthew 24:45, which is totally twisted. Today I'm not even going to look at how the text is twisted and misapplied. Let us go along for the sake of argument with the Watchtower's spin. So Jesus said he would appoint a slave. Okay, where is the evidence that the slave is any more Stephen Lett than T.D. Jakes? Dear Jehovah's Witnesses, the only claim I have heard from your brothers and sisters is how the organization has thrived under the management of the governing body, so that Jehovah must be with them. Look at headquarters, they say. I leave you with one question. Have you ever heard or seen the Vatican? Catholics also claim the Pope is appointed. Take your pick. Which one will you believe? Well, allow me and the Watchtower to help you out. I give you Jeffrey Jackson.
Now, it's true, some might say, well, yes, but at times, we look back over the 100 years, there were times they got excited about a certain year or time, and the end didn't come at that time. But just imagine if you had a watchdog, and that dog barks in the middle of the night, and you get up and there's nothing there. Do you shoot the dog?
And I give you the Watchtower of May 1, 1997, page 8, paragraph 1, identifying the right kind of messenger. Jehovah God is the grand identifier of his true messengers. He identifies them by making the messages he delivers through them come true. Jehovah is also the great exposer of false messengers. How does he expose them? As with a dog barking at nothing, he frustrates their signs and predictions. In this way, he shows they are self-appointed prognosticators whose messages really spring from their own false reasoning. Yes, their foolish, fleshly barking. Hello, Winston here, just telling you thanks for tuning in for this video and encouraging you to subscribe to the channel. Be sure to hit the bell so that you will be notified when new content is uploaded. There is more to clicking the like button than just suggesting you enjoyed the video. The more likes that a video gets, the more YouTube shows it to non-subscribers. And the more that happens, the more Jehovah's Witnesses are reached. The videos have proven to help Jehovah's Witnesses, so that one little act can go a far way. So go ahead, click that like button. It helps. Love you all.
May the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you all.